Welcome to There Is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell. I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's Fitness Programs, and I've been in business for the past 28 years, since 1994. Today is Sunday, and we're almost midway through June. So today's podcast might be a little bit different, but that's okay. I think we need different sometimes. But the title is Myob. And what is so hard about it? And how does it relate to fitness? Let's talk about that. Before I do, I want to thank our sponsors, Jonathan and Lynn Gilden at the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. They're the absolute best at what they do. They're hustlers. I personally vouch for them. It's still good time to sell that house, put it up on the market, and you absolutely need an agent to help you find what you're looking for. I found that to be the trickiest part for myself. I could have easily sold my home just simply because of downsizing. It's a pretty big house for me, and but there was nowhere to go. And the real estate agents I had at the time, before I had met these fine folks at the Gilden Group, were simply, in my opinion, not really out there hustling, finding me something. Everybody was taking advantage of the houses sell themselves type of thing, but when you're really looking for something, you need an agent that cares. So I can vouch for them, and when and if I do decide to go down that road again, they'll be my choice. They can be reached at thegildengroup.com. So Myob. I taught that to somebody today when we were out biking, and kind of surprised me that she didn't hear that term before, but that's okay. Grew up in a different country, so anyway, mind your own business. And why is it so hard? Let me give you a little backstory on that. First off, it's been on my mind a lot. It's been on Ellen's mind a lot when we socialized, with ourselves, when we, after the gym, after a day's work, when we sit down, we see so many instances of really kind of bad behavior by us humans, and we've been talking about it a lot lately, and it's been talked about quite a bit, with the media, which might be part of the problem, definitely on social media, and just with our clients, they talk a lot about it. But has this started kind of like after COVID? I mean, that's kind of like some people's belief system, that people were cooped up for so long. There was the lockdowns, and then the semi-lockdowns, and then a lot of the paranoia about going anywhere, which I think we all felt. Nobody wanted to catch it. I mean, we were pretty careful, and we still caught it. So, definitely, I'm not saying don't be paranoid, because it's a pretty nasty disease out there. But, we all got kind of afraid. We got shut in, and our lives changed. I mean, a lot of people are still working from home when they used to go to the office. For a while there, a lot of people were working from home, and they just went back. I have a good client who works for Facebook, and he was not going to work. Well, he was working extremely hard, absolutely, from his house, but he was not going to the workplace for like 2 years, which is in California, which was a great blessing for us, because during those times we got to meet him, and that's great because he was here. Now he's back in California. But 2 years working from home when, people are used to going to the office. So I don't know if that's part of it, but there's just bad behavior. It's like all of a sudden people don't know how to play in the sandbox very well anymore. I think we already had some issues with that. I think in a society, and I've studied a lot of sociology, I found it interesting. So this is really nothing new. As a guy I like to listen to, Ryan Holiday, he always says this is very precedent. He hates when he hears unprecedented, because we're not special. Like every generation, every society has gone through different things. So I get that, but in my lifetime, it seems like people have just become so much more selfish. And a part of it I want to focus on is the MYOB, like mind your own business, and how does that apply to exercise, fitness, and training. And I think it applies a lot. I think it's a major deterrent for people that don't like it, like don't like people minding their own business. And I think it shows a form of pathology out there in people that have a hard time with it. And I'm really not trying to be judgmental, because I do believe people do what they do because there's a reason behind it, and maybe they just are having some issues themselves. But when that's going on too much, people's maladaptive behavior then leak out and start affecting other people. So I'm not trying to be like overly judgmental about it, but I do think it's a problem. Another little backstory to tell you how I got here today. So on our ride today, there was just two of us training, and I was training one of my clients, and she's pretty new on the bike, but she's doing real well. She's getting a lot better, and she's very fit. She's fit on the bike, and so today was an OD ride, over distance, which means slightly longer than race distance. So like, let's say you're racing 100 miles, which that's a really bad example because I'm not. Okay, so let's say your race is 10 miles. So an over distance ride would be like 12 miles or 15 miles. In our case today, we were riding 25 miles because it's a good over distance for sprint triathlon. So over distance is a little bit longer than the race pace you're going to do, and it is easier than the race pace you're going to do. Okay, so it's a little bit longer than the race distance you're going to do, and it's a little bit easier than your race pace. So it's a pretty comfortable pace. Anyway, she was in front, which we call pulling, and pretty casual, just cruising, nothing on a scale of 0 to 10, probably a 3 or a 4, so nothing big at all. And I'm always trying to give her lessons because there's a lot to cycling. And let me tell you, when you cycle, when you're cycling on road bikes or mountain bikes, really anything, really, you got to mind your own business. Like, you really got to focus on what you're doing. Or there's been people that have been really, really hurt, and tragically, there's been people killed, of course, on bicycles, and not just by cars. And I was going to go on another tangent of somebody I know well that was hit by a bicycle, another guy on a bicycle, and he was really never able to race again, and he had to have a steel rod put in his leg, and he still stayed fit because thankfully he does other things and he's in shape. At one point, he actually hired me as an expert witness for him, and he won his case. Me being a physiologist, I can explain why his case was special with cycling and all that, but that's neither here nor there. But he was hit by another bicyclist and basically had his amateur racing career ended at that point. So it could be very dangerous out there, and I'm very cognizant of that. I've had too many friends crash, and again, a lot of times from other cyclists, especially on the trail. There's no motorized vehicles out there, which people violate, and that's a whole nother issue and problem. I actually didn't see that today, so that's good. So anyway, as I'm behind her, I look up a little bit, and she noticed it, but there was a guy, and he was, fairly tall guy, so he pretty noticeable, and he's wearing all black, which was a little strange because even though it was in the morning time, it's hot. It was a long black long sleeve shirt. He looked to be, fairly decently fit cyclist. He's on a road bike cruising along, but he was all over the path, and it's if you've never been out there on the Edgewater Trail, it's a beautiful place to ride, cycle, run. A lot of people now have taken their road bikes down there because there's no cars, so it's definitely safer than being on the road. And we noticed him basically just kind of like crossing the path back and forth with nobody around. I mean, it was like he's by himself, but you always got to be cognizant. Like, I'm always teaching her and other people, you don't know who's coming up behind you, so just stay alert, listen, pay attention, always look over your shoulder every once in a while. So I told her to be aware. I said, I taught her the drill before, that when you pass, because we weren't going overly hard, but we were going slightly faster than him. We were catching up to him, which is fine. And I think that's, where I want to take this podcast mostly is like, why why do people take it personal when you're going faster than them? So that's exactly what this guy did. So we go by him, we do what you're supposed to do, say on your left, and we go by him, and next thing I know, he's yelling something. I had no idea what he was yelling. And then my partner there rotated out, and I was in the front, and like I can hear some yelling, and I'm thinking I have no idea what's going on. And I'm pretty good at minding my own business. I'm not about to look back and cause an accident. I just keep rolling forward, and next thing I know, this guy that we'd been what we call reeling in, that means you kind of seen somebody for a mile or so or longer, and you've been slowly catching up on them. And by the way, when you're out biking and you're fairly confident and you're just trying to get a good workout in and you're training and everything, you don't really want to pass people. Like, quite frankly, and Ellen and I talked about that today, it's like, really, prefer to have that whole freaking trail to ourselves, and I know that's not possible, so you have to learn to share something so beautiful and play well on the sandbox, right? But the point is, though, like, we were not out there, and I'm never out there to like try to catch people like it's a race. I mean, literally trying to do my own thing. And I was even explaining to my partner who I was riding with today that there's even been times in races where I've kind of backed off a little on the bike because I was so sick and tired of going back and forth with somebody who just could not stand to be passed, and then all of a sudden they speed up. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about. You don't have to bike or run or any of that or swim to know that. You just be on the interstate. You pass somebody, next thing you know, they're sitting right next to you, and you're like, what the hell are you doing, dude? It's like, this isn't personal. We're not at Daytona International Speedway. I'm just really trying to get where I'm going and went around because you were either going slower than I want to drive, or you were driving chaotically, but I'm really just trying to get around you. And next thing you know, there they are. So you know what I mean. And that's another instance what I've seen, that behavior of people have just gotten worse, and I really don't think it's because I've been paying more attention, because that's just not what I want to pay attention to. But anyway, so now he goes flying by us yelling something. I had no idea what he yelled, and I was just like, okay, just laughing or whatever, you know what I mean? Just kind of like sarcastically going, like, okay, whatever you're saying, bye-bye, kind of an attitude, and trying to leave it at that so it doesn't escalate, and then rode up next to my partner and said, hey, so, what do you learn from that? See how annoying it is when people can't mind their own business. You go by them and they act like you just insulted them, and now all of a sudden, they want to go faster and they want to speed up, and they're like racing you. And then of course he gets a little bit in the front and then slows down again, and it's like, oh God, here we go. And thankfully we had just purposely backed off a little bit just so we can get away from them. And and I was using it as a lesson, and like, okay, so this is how you avoid them, blah blah blah, and then we go about our business. And I knew we were going to go to this place called Fergie's, which is basically 12 and a half miles up. So we were doing a 25 or so, like almost 25 mile ride. So that's like the halfway point. And I even said to her, I said, if this dude is at Fergie's, just don't stop, just turn around, keep going. And to give Fergie's a little shout out, this is the polar opposite. This is somebody that so plays well in the sandbox with others. I don't know their name. I'm guessing Fergie, maybe their last name, but it's a little stand up there. Probably, maybe getting closer to Mims. We'd be at that point. I don't know. Maybe not that far. Who knows? But Oak Hill, maybe. And it's literally right off the beaten path on the trail. And they put a table out, and they put food and chips and bananas and probably water. I'm sure there's a water bucket thing. So it's really cool, and it's all quote free, And it says honor system, just leave a couple bucks to help pay for it when you can. So all I did today was take a little picture so I can give them a little props on social media, because I think they deserve it. Didn't take anything because we didn't have any cash, and I did not want to be that person on the dishonor system. So luckily, again, 25 miles isn't that long of a distance for me or my partner. So I'm like, we've got enough. We don't need it. Not the point. point is, it's a cool place. Appreciate them. Maybe, hopefully, they can hear this podcast one day and hear that the cyclists out there really appreciate what they do so selflessly, and that's pretty cool. So anyway, we're heading back, and I see this dude again coming in the opposite direction as we're coming. He must have made a different turn, and he's like giving us the, eat shit and die look, and I'm like, what is this dude's problem? And another third backstory is I've seen him out on the trail before screaming at people, so he's kind of like the trail Nazi, although he's not a good rule follower himself, and he yells at I actually do know who this guy is now, because I asked a couple people, but that's neither here nor there. This isn't a slander or anything else, and I wouldn't even really describe him other than the black shirt, which was very strange. But I've seen him yell at people, and he's your typical bully. He typically yells at older people out on the trail for riding 2x2 or something, which can be a little dangerous, but you don't need to yell at them. You can just simply say on your left and go by them, and they'll figure it out eventually, and they're definitely not trying to do anything malicious like him. But I've seen him do it before, and just, who knows, chip on his shoulder, something wrong, who the hell knows. So anyway, so we get back to the trailhead where we meet, and I was doing a brick workout, which means bike run. So I rack my bike and I go for a little mile run. That was my goal, just a 25-mile bike and 1 mile run, pretty brisk. It just gets your legs ready, and nice training thing I do on either Saturday or Sundays. And she was in a boot, so she didn't run. The partner, she did a little walk in her walking boot, so to say. And part of the story probably doesn't matter at all. Telling a very long story. Maybe you find it entertaining. Maybe you're bored to tears already, but hey, that's okay, right? So I see a little snail out on the trail as I'm waiting for her to finish her walk, and I wanted to say that it would, I'm noticing all these snails and worms dying because it's been so hot, and I know biology does its thing, but I'm picking it up and sticking itself to the ground, and I'm like trying to move it over into the grass. And this is only relevant because he goes by on the bike, and once again probably wonders what the hell I'm doing. Or what's weird is he didn't. It's like if I saw somebody like in the middle of the trail trying to pick something up, then I might actually be a little interested. But like in this case, when it's almost appropriate to kind of look down and, I don't know, give a look, he doesn't. And it's right close to the trailhead, and and I blow him off. I'm like, whatever. Who knows what this dude's problem was earlier? Maybe he didn't even remember. At this point, I'm like, who knows? And anyway, we get the snail into the grass. We walk back and racking the bike and getting ready to take a picture for an advertisement. And all of a sudden, I see him like walking towards us, and my partner goes, "Oh no!" I'm like, yeah, I see him. Just ignore him, And so he walks past us. He's got his van all the way down at the other side of the parking lot. So he, for some reason, walks all the way to our end where we're parked, and starts staring in somebody's red Jeep, almost like he knows the guy, But I honestly think he was just walking down there, obviously, to kind of check us out and maybe think of something to say and hope we would say something, and we don't. And he's looking in the guy's van, Jeep. Then he walks back, and I'm finishing putting my bike on the rack or whatever I'm doing, or getting ready to change. And all of a sudden, he comes right up and starts yelling, "If you guys pass me next time, you better pass a lot faster, scumbag." And starts calling me a scumbag, and starts like telling us why we should have passed him faster. And I was like floored. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm not going to get into the all the details. Anybody knows me knows I'm not one to take that behavior whatsoever, and I used a few choice words, but in a sense I behaved pretty well and just wanted him to go away. Took a picture of him so I could send it to a couple buddies of mine who are police officers, to basically say, this guy really needs to be off the trail or whatever. But that's as far as I took it. And and again told him a few choice words, and he wouldn't leave it at that. He even started like really mouthing off to the female I was with. I'm only stressing that because she's a female, for goodness sakes. And he was even kind of like bowing up to her and yelling at her. This guy clearly has something wrong with him. And the pitcher, well, I'm not even going to get into that, but he definitely looked like he could maybe use some help. And again, I've seen him out there before. So that's the backstory, and I'm just going to leave that part at that because the rest of it's just stupid. He eventually went away, and before he did, he challenged me to a bike race, but only if I would match his $10,000, and then proceeded to tell me that there's no way I even had $10,000 in my whole life, and how his van down the way is a Mercedes. It was really interesting, to say the least. He finally went away, and we had obviously it's a little disturbing. At the same time, it's also like, what a nutcase, and what an opportunity, to make a great podcast and talk about a little bit of this, and there's been more instances of behavior, and again, I want to keep it to MYOB. There's been other instances of people just going off the chains, trying, fighting, and it's been crazy, right? I mean, we've seen all the videos, we've seen grocery store fights, we've seen, I never heard the word Karen before the last 2 years. Now we have Karens out there that are like creating mayhem in Starbucks and on flights, and people that are just so pissed off about everybody. And I don't know why, I don't know what the answer is, I really don't. We were talking about it today, and but the bottom line is, like, in a case like this, you take a guy out on a bike trail or run, whatever, and why is it that somebody out there doing their thing, biking, running, bothers you? Like, what is it? I'm a psych major, and it's pretty obvious what it is, even though he was not short, it's little man syndrome, right? I mean, you get past. So what? Again, really the whole goal was we're just going 18, 19 miles an hour, which, we weren't trying to go fast, and that's not, quote, fast. I mean, everything's relative, I get that, but that's not like close to what we would be doing if we're like really trying to like be jerks and speed by somebody. We're really just kind of doing our thing, and it offended them. It's like, what do we have to do with you? And there is so much of that, and I've talked about this in other podcasts. Like, why are you racing somebody who's not racing you? And you got to come up and then tell me later how much faster we should go if we want to, ever pass him again out there. And, and he did later in the conversation proceed to tell me how he was like one time a professional cyclist in Bulgaria or something ridiculous like that. I mean, who says things like that? Like, who cares? And you're thinking, well, this is just one Looney Tune, and it's like, well, yeah, but no, there is a lot of people that don't mind their own business out there, and they don't mind their own business in the fitness world, and a lot of people just want to be left alone. I mean, you can be out running early in the morning in a neighborhood, and when I say you, I mean me. I witness it. Or Ellen running or walking. She's been walking more lately because she hurt her knee. And the people rolling down the windows, the staring, the getting close to you on the road like you're not supposed to be running on the road. Like, I swear there's people that still don't understand that, like, when you run, you're supposed to run against traffic. That's the law. And they literally still, to this day, I can remember this even 20 years ago. To this day, people will get as close to you as humanly possible, even though they have the whole road open to drive around you. There are people that have gone so insane in their cars that they literally, I believe it was in Tampa, ran over a peloton of cyclists because they felt that they were in their way. And I don't remember how many they killed, but it was a few. And then, of course, a peloton means a group of bicyclists. And I guess the motorist was so pissed off that they were on the road with them, and they shouldn't be on the road. Why does it bother you? Why? It's really, and everybody listening to this is going to understand, because everybody listening to this is in the fitness and they get it, and they've had their own, dealings with stuff like this, you need to share it with people. We need to get people to understand that just because there is some sort of a wellness movement that didn't nowhere compared to the 1970s, when actually we thought we were going to really create a boom, not a boom, a boom. You know, in Berkeley was where a lot of it started, in California, and there was going to be this big wellness movement, and there was a running movement and all this. And you know, then in the early 80s we had a wellness movement in the corporate wellness, where, you know, it was really looking like people were getting it, that a more fit person makes a more fit employee and it makes the company better. So it really looked like we're going that way. Well, we're not there now. I mean, we backtracked significantly. So, okay, you don't want to be part of it. You don't want to run. You don't want to bike. You don't want to go to the gym and lift weights. You don't want to do these things. Okay. I don't see people into it being too bothered by the fact that you don't want to. Like, I could care less, you know? I mean, I could care less. I don't, if somebody chooses to not take up the wellness movement, whatever you want to call it, or eat however they want to eat, I'm not, you know, I've learned, you know, in multiple different situations that if you want to change people's mindsets, you can't do it by force feeding them or forcing on it. Like, they've got to see something in you and want to change. They've got to see something about you. You know, it's kind of like with sobriety, with drugs and alcohol. Like, you can know somebody that has a problem and you can go up to them and say, dude, I don't think you should drink anymore. And they're going to, like, not only not drink, they're going to not talk to you anymore, because, you know, you're threatening something to them that they don't want to hear. So you just eliminated yourself from ever being of service to them. But, like, if you live a good life, if you're doing, like, what you're supposed to do at anything, what you feel is important to you, then those folks can eventually come to you and say, hey, I noticed, like, you've been on this healthy lifestyle for, like, years now, and you seem pretty content and happy and all this, you know, can you tell me a little more about it? Like, you know, you're going to be, if you're going to be attractive to people, you're going to change them. So to make a long story short on that, I don't care. You know, you don't want to do it, don't do it. But why do so many people get threatened if somebody is, in their estimation, I guess, more fit than them? Because that's the only thing I can figure. Like, you get this guy's panties in a wad because, and even my partner that was with me today, which was kind of funny, because she looked to him and said, after he was, like, threatening the $10,000 bet and called us a scumbag and called us a fucking scumbag and all this, you know, really nice stuff, you know, she looked at him and even said, you got passed by a girl, which was funny. And look, he needed to hear that, you know. So, you know, maybe that's what it was. Who the hell knows? But, you know, I guess people call it now toxic masculinity. I don't know. I just think he's a dick. But, you know, the bottom line is, you know, there's so much little man syndrome out there, and it doesn't matter, you know, if you're little or not. But I can only guess that's what it is. You know, there's people filming people in gyms, and I get it. Sometimes, you know, there's funny stuff out there, but it's like, mind your own effing business, man. If somebody's in the gym and they're, you know, have no idea what they're doing, who gives a shit? You know, who cares? I mean, I learned a long time ago as a trainer to never say anything to anybody unless they're absolutely going to hurt themselves. But you know what? I can remember even instances in that case where I turned a blind eye, because I'm like, I've been bit by this before. When I was younger, in my 20s, and first started as a personal trainer, and I was basically training my clients at the YMCA in Port Orange, there would be times when I was in there just, you know, waiting for clients or whatever, and I would see people do some really ridiculous shit. And I'd go up to them and I'd try to correct them, and, oh man, you just piss them off, you know. What do you know? I'm doing this for a reason. You as strong as me, buddy? It's like, okie dokie, you know. So it's like, okay, you know. So I literally never say anything. I you know, if somebody wants to come up to me, if they know me somewhere, and thankfully, big reason why I have my own gym, in all seriousness, I mean, dead serious, is because people don't mind their own business. And and will literally kind of like annoy you while you're training somebody else. So, if somebody did come up and ask me, then I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll show you that. But unless I'm asked, I'm on my own business, man. And I kid you not, on the other part, it would drive me nuts when I'm at a gym and I'm training somebody, and you get somebody like constantly gawking and staring and watching what you're doing, and making you uncomfortable, making the client uncomfortable. It's like, what are you doing? Like, stop it. Stop staring. Don't. And I know staring's like the least of our issues, but saying stuff and being aggressive takes it to all new levels. I get it. But there's still this segment that just won't mind their own business. When people go to 5Ks, 10Ks, whatever, it's like, that's a good thing. Should be there, happy that you can do it. One thing that, still touches me quite a bit is my mom passed a couple years ago in July. And she did a lot of 5Ks. She walked a lot of 5Ks. And she power walked them like she was, she was competitive for her age group. And it was just something that was really cool, because I could see her at races doing them. And as she got more disabled due to dementia and a broken hip, she ended up in a wheelchair. And this lovely lady, Beth, who took care of her at Smyrna West, after I couldn't do it anymore because she was falling too much at home, and it just broke my heart, but I couldn't do it. We had to get her into assisted living so she could stay safe. But it was a blessing, because this woman, Beth, was like an angel. I always said that she's an angel. She took her job to new levels, and she was so loving to her. And so anyway, one of my last games, well, not one of my last games, but when she was still alive a couple years ago, we put on a Max Fit Games, and it was a 5K, and it was other events, but the 5K part, Beth pushed my mom in a steel wheelchair the whole way. And I still, I get a little even emotional talking about it right now, but she had her number on her and number on the chair, and it was just so cool to, her big old smile crossing the finish line was just like so awesome. And Beth is such an angel to do it. That couldn't have been easy. My mom wasn't heavy, but it wasn't a racing chair or anything. But the point is, I'm sure she would have loved to been able to be out there and power walk it like she used to, versus being pushed in a chair. So, just being out there, being able to do things is so great and awesome. Why do we care what anybody else around us is doing? Why do we care? And you can run by people in a 5K, and all of a sudden they're running to catch up with you, and they're like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? And it happens in triathlons. You can go to the Y and swim, and all of a sudden somebody is like swimming right next to you, or not leaving you alone when you work out. It has become, I don't know, it's a problem. It's really a problem that people are really having a trouble. And swimming's a great analogy. It's like, stay in your lane. Just stay in your lane. Why are you trying to keep up with me? And all of a sudden the workout you're doing, you can tell some random stranger next to you at the pool is now doing the same thing that you are doing. They leave on the clock when you leave, and they're racing you, and it is so frustrating when. And I've talked to my friends about this, where you literally have to change your whole workout just to get them kind of away from you, because then every time you stop at the wall to look at the clock, they stop and start asking you questions and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, you got there on your own. Why can't you just stay in your lane and do your own thing? Why have people forgotten how to be good humans and just do what they set out to do? I'm not saying be antisocial. If there's a real reason to communicate with somebody and to be helpful, by all means, of course, do it. For me, it wasn't a human, but anybody that knows me knows I love animals, and I don't even kill bugs, okay? So it's I'm just trying to get that snail off the trail. It's absolutely dig in and help your fellow man or fellow animal, because we are, or help the earth. Pick up litter. I try to do that when I walk around the trail, and I get there before somebody else does. I'll walk around and pick up the litter because people are pigs. Absolutely do stuff like that. But why do you gotta bother people? Why do you have to bother people? Why do you have to stare, gawk, pick fights, worry about what anybody else is doing, And I'll just, finish up this little rant of, and you could see it on social media where it's become a big problem. People will be doing different things on social media, and everybody's worried about what they're doing on social media and comparing themselves to them. And it's like, who gives a shit? We all know that with social media. If we don't know, we're stupid. But we all know that you're seeing the person's 1% of their best day, right? We're seeing 1% of their day, and they're just showing their best parts. Okay, if you don't know that, you're crazy. How many of you have posted something, centered the picture, made it look just right, deleted a few just to post a stupid picture of your dog or something, which I do it all the time. It's like, that wasn't a good one, right? So we know we do it. So everybody else is showing like their best moment. Okay, so you're going to compare like your day versus somebody's best moment. That is so ridiculous. You're going to compare your workout versus what somebody says they're doing, and then like compete with them, compare to them. It's like, what are you doing that for? Number one, you don't know if they did that. I can remember how many years ago was it? 27 years ago or so, when I first did a bodybuilding show. I got featured in, what was it called? Florida Muscle Mag? I don't know. Anyway, it was a hometown hero. No, it was Iron Man magazine. Geesh, what am I talking about? Iron Man's pretty cool. See, I forgot. But anyway, I sent in a picture of my show, and it was a local heroes section. They said, tell a little story about yourself. So I did, and I remember I got the magazine. I'm like, man, I got chosen. This is really cool. And it wasn't what I said. It was all changed and made to sound better. I guess what I said was way too damn boring, but that's what happens. So, like, who cares? Get up, pick your goals. What are you going to do? Like, what's your plan? What's your plan? To go into the trail, to run, to bike, whatever? Okay, what's your goal? I see people out there doing it all the time. There's a lady I see all the time. She's got her music on. She's power walking, cruising, doing her thing every morning. Yeah, I could care less. Somebody could come up next to her. She says hello. We all say hello. That's great. That's what we need to be doing. Don't race people when they're not racing you. Don't be looking what other people are doing on social media and comparing yourself and competing with them. Don't be looking at fitness models and comparing yourself to them. Mind your own business. And, let's set an example out there so we encourage people to want to exercise, When I see people out there, I'll say, good job. Hey, man, how you doing? Good morning. Give them a thumbs up. All great shit. Mind your own business. And if you know people that like are really resentful and jealous of other people that are in shape or whatever, slap them. Tell them, say, what's your problem, man? Like, if you've got somebody in your family like that, share this podcast. Because they've got a problem, and you're never going to get better by trying to chip on somebody else, right? So chipping, I think we all know, means you got a chip on your shoulder. So you're chipping on somebody else. You don't feel good about yourself, so you want to try to bring them down to your level. You don't want to try to rise up to that person who you may or may not admire, but in your own very damaged estimation, you think they're better than you when they don't even care about that. So instead of saying, well, then I'm going to go out and do this, no, you try to like lower somebody else. Yeah, that's not healthy, man. Today's Sunday, wellness day, whatever your, beliefs are. I believe in body, mind, and spirit. Think about it. Where could we all be better to mind our own business? Where could we all be better? Ellen and I just made a joke, and we owned it, a few minutes ago. Well, shoot, been rambling on here for 40 minutes. So more like 40 minutes ago, said something about the neighbor, why is he on a rider's lawnmower? And I joked, I said, hey, we got to mind our own business. Who gives a damn why he's on his rider lawnmower? Who cares? Who cares? I don't. I really don't. So it's like little things like that. Why do we care? All right. MYOB. Until next time, be Max Fit, be Maxwell.